Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of XCW Freetime Interview. I am your host Fletch as always, and today we're going to be joined by none other than Alex Cardona Thompson. And Freetime Interview, your first interview, so I'm really interested to hear your perspectives, and I'm sure the XCW Galaxy is also very intrigued to hear the different opinions you have of the questions that we have lined up for you today. So let's get right into it. Who is your favorite superstar in XCW to watch?
I think I'd have to go with Hayden Vex. I'm more of I like a wrestler who's not only good in the ring, which Hayden's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
He can make anyone look good in my opinion. I like someone who can tell a story, and I think Hayden Vex does that perfectly. My second ever one-on-one, I was put with Hayden Vex in a Money in the Bank qualifier, and I'm kind of like, hey, honestly, I don't know how I'm going to do in this situation, but being with Hayden, I trusted him 100%. I trusted him to call the shots, and I just felt like being in there with him, it was kind of like, wow, even me being so new, he's making this look good, and this is 100% on him being the veteran, calling the shots, and I mean, obviously we can tell you trust him, and you can see how good he is with what he's done just in a matter of a year and a half at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time I encountered Hayden was he worked in the Tri-Brand shows against Jay Ellis in high rank tournament, and he went out in the first round, but was phenomenal. He ended up going against Genocide at the time, Crit Acid now. In the finale of the Enemy Lines match for the United Backyard title. And right then and there, I knew that we had to have him, and then he debuted against me, and I knew right then and there in our first two matches in 2020 that he was going to be an instant star. Love working with Hayden Vex. But speaking of working with people, who in your opinion is your favorite to work with in XCW?
I mean, I haven't been here long, so it's not like a wide choice, but I'd probably have to go with Brogan just because he made things different. You look at who I feud with. I feuded Brennan as he was kind of on his way out. Then I feuded Void. I feuded Blackheart. And then Brady. And although, Void, Blackheart, Brady, you look at them, they're bigger guys. Obviously, they're not going to speed things up. And I'm small, but I'll admit I'm fat. I mean, I'm not going to get in there and speed things up. But when I faced Brogan, it was kind of like, okay, he wants to speed things up. He wants to go, go, go.
Right.
And that, it was different for me. Whereas with Void and Brady and Blackheart is I could plan out rest spots because, no offense to them, they're all great. They needed rest spots too. Whereas Brogan's like, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're right back to this. You're right back to this. We're going to keep it going. So him being more fast-paced, I'd say it was definitely him.
Now, you mentioned that you've only been in XCW for a very short time, but you've seen some of the stuff from the archives, from our YouTube channel and stuff like that. Overall, of all the shows that you've witnessed, all the shows that you've been a part of, what, in your opinion, was the best XCW show?
I'd have to go with the Halloween, I think, what was it called, Harvest this past year?
Yeah, Halloween.
I'd have to go with that just because, like, there were matches nominated for Match of the Year, and, like, I helped you decide what was on there, and, like, we watched that show, and we were like, okay, honestly, every single match on this show could be on there, and, like, we had a tough time sitting down.
Oh, yeah.
Just deciding, okay, what do we dwindle out, and, like, okay, honestly, everyone said Money in the Bank up until the finish was the Match of the Year. And, I mean, it was that for the whole thing, like, every match.
Yeah, that was match one, and it just kept going and going.
Yeah, it's like there wasn't a drop-off, I think, and then the main event kind of solidified that being a new match, not just to XCW, but honestly, just wrestling in general.
Flip side to that, can you recall a worse show in XCW?
I'd say it's probably the Ground Zero we did with FWL.
Okay.
I think that match, just in general, there wasn't really a great match on that card. I mean, you look at the guys FWL brought, and it just wasn't, I think, good at all. There wasn't a single match I'd look at and just be like, you have to go back and watch this.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes that happens. I mean, I know, like our Go Home show for Summer Mania in 2020, like Summer Mania in 2020, I think was Summer Mania 15, I believe. Like the Go Home show for that Emergence was just trash. I mean, absolutely trash. So it happens from time to time. Next question here is, how did you get your start in XCW?
Well, I want to say it started, I think it was in 2019 where I reached out to you, and it was kind of like at that point, we talked
and
about...
we never met before.
Yeah, no, we never met before. I mean, I just kind of found it on YouTube, and I think we talked before. I was at the time kind of in the Fort Wayne area, so, and I didn't have a job. I was in college. So it was kind of like, okay, maybe I could show up, like, you know, get training, and then go back, and I never really found the time, but I think early 2020, I want to say it was like a little bit after COVID started, you invited me to come out to a show, and that's kind of where I started the training, and then from there, we've seen how it's gone. So I'd say kind of 2019 is where we got to talking, and then early 2020 is where I actually began the training, and we began giving me character ideas.
Yeah, and you honestly, like, you got a completely different experience than most of the guys that come into XCW, because you even got used as an extra in early 2020. If you guys want to go back and watch it on our official YouTube, XC Wrestling 1, he was actually an extra with Tommy the Mayor Merriman when he was in this character where he was locked up after he stabbed Chris Jones in the early 2020 season.
To that point, that's my only interaction with Tommy in the show.
Yeah. So that was a big moment, I think, for Tommy in his career. But what was the biggest moment for your career here in XCW?
I think I'd have to go with the Field of Fatality match with Void. I feel like there's a lot of people who have said before, like, oh, I'm not the greatest of wrestlers, and I'm not. My point is I'm a character.
Right.
I'm supposed to be great on the mic, which I am. But the Field of Fatality match, I think that kind of, like, turned things around, made people think of, okay, he can step up when needed. And, like, it wasn't like AEW who did the Field of Fatality, where they had 10 people.
Right.
So they could go to different spots. With me and Void, it was a one-on-one.
Right.
We're kind of like, okay, we can't just cut to something else happening. We have to plan out our spots, and it's kind of like, once you have to do it to perfection. I think we only had to reshoot one thing.
Right.
In total.
And that was a cameraman issue, not even a match issue. So.
But yeah, I feel like that match went better than a lot of people expected just because it's two people.
Right. And I mean, I could look at that as probably a huge turning point in your career, but what, in your opinion, was the biggest turning point in your career?
Biggest... Probably when I won the New Age Championship, just because...
So that was from Brendan Stickle in late 2020, right?
Yeah, I believe it was the show after Summer Mania, so I guess it'd be mid-2020, because that was who I first feuded. He beat me at Summer Mania, and then 2 weeks later, I beat him, and then our feud kind of closed in the, we did a match at the IUPUI campus. So I'd say that was the turning point because we saw how that reign played out. It went for a while, second longest of all time. Me and Brennan did a match at a campus, and then me and Void, with the New Age title online, went to a football field. So 2 totally different match types, 2 XCW came along.
And you're talking about like the match with you and Void, and also the one with you and Brendan. And you and Brendan had a pretty brutal match on the campus, and then back here at the arena with light tubes and stuff like that. And I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm curious. What's the worst injury you sustained in XCW?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was an injury, but probably the first time I got cut open when I got hit with a light tube. It was kind of my fault because, like,
You put your elbows back?
I kind of just put my elbows back.
Yeah.
And, like, as it hit me, I'm like, oh, wow, that hurt. And I messed up completely. I didn't know. Brendan wanted me to set the light tubes on the chair and just go through them. So I didn't know that. So I just set them on the ground. So that kind of, gave him 2 extra shots.
Yeah. Hey, the communication isn't always there, especially in an environment like that where you don't really have your referee to bounce off of. So I get that. But, Brendan, obviously no longer active in the ring. You kind of
2022, you never know. That's what Rogan said.
That's right. 2022, Brendan Stipple makes the comeback, right? But he's had a string of injuries during his career. But in your opinion, that you've seen so far, who's the worst injury that you've seen happen to someone else? Like, what's the worst injury you've witnessed?
It wasn't one I witnessed in person, but it'd be one I witnessed in one of the first shows I ever watched. The Money in the Bank Brogan one, was it 2019, I want to say?
Yes, yeah.
So that one where Will Smith, I believe is his name, and I could just tell as he fell off the ladder, you could just hear the thud.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'd say that was definitely the worst I've ever witnessed, because it was just something like, you could tell as he hit the ground, like, okay, something's up.
Yeah, it was definitely not. It's too bad because the match, I think, went really, really well to that point. And, luckily, Hazard was there and was smart enough to kind of help him, kind of ease him down a little bit more. It could have been much worse. So has there ever been a time in the last couple of years of XCW that you ever just wanted to quit and just be done with wrestling?
I'd say it was after the first time I trained.
Really?
I just,
you would think that would be more of a common answer, but honestly, I haven't heard that a lot.
Yeah, I just went home in total pain, and I was just like, maybe I don't want to do this. And, you can say there might be other times, because, if people watch, you're not witnessing a suplex in my match.
Right.
It's just not something I've kind of gotten into, and, the first time I ever did one, Kurt Acid, at the time he was Genocide, dropped me on my head. But, after that first training session, which, early March, I think it was when the ST4 started around that time, I went home and I was just kind of like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this isn't something I want to pursue.
And then your body kind of becomes callous to it, and then it just kind of becomes where bumps don't really make a difference one way or another. So you talked about Kurt Acid. Obviously, he was Genocide at the time, had a little bit of a gimmick change. But what's the worst gimmick that you've witnessed here in XCW? Who do you think has the worst gimmick?
What's the guy's name whose wife was on Maury?
Stevie Goble.
Yeah, I'd say him just because I don't really understand the gimmick. I think he's supposed to be like a hillbilly redneck. Yeah. But to me, it's just he doesn't portray it greatly enough. I think there are.
But he is it.
Yeah, I guess so. The way I remember him.
The fact that his girlfriend was on Maury enough should tell.
Yeah.
That's enough right there,
That's
right?
how I remembered him.
All right, so on the flip side of that, what's the best gimmick you think you've seen?
I'd say it was when I first started Tommy's prisoner gimmick, just because I think he played it to a point of he had everyone believe that he was this psychotic man who...
He is.
who he was out to actually kill someone when he got in the ring.
Yeah. He his character is known for making things personal, and he had no issues with stabbing Chris Jones, and neither did I, right in the face with a light tube. Now, do you have a way to prepare for a match? Any pre-match rituals that you have that get you geared up to step into the ring?
There's really not anything I've kind of noticed that's from each match to each match. It's kind of just like, obviously you want to talk with your opponent, especially for me where I haven't worked with many people, so I'm not going to know their moveset 100% or the best way to go about working with them. But other than just talking, I haven't really picked up on any habits that I know are from each match.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the very few people, other than maybe you, that doesn't really have a pre-match ritual, just because I'm so damn busy. I don't have time for a ritual. I guess mine is to make sure everybody else's shit's executively produced so that I can even do a match. So I understand. So one thing that all XCW wrestlers just dread within their character, within their career, is the wrath of a chop. What's the worst chop you've received? And if you say Katie, it's okay, I understand.
No, she doesn't chop me, I chop her.
That's right.
I'd probably have to go with Void. I think there was one time I had the idea of my character's the scholar, it's smart, so I wanted to play off that with him. So I had him do like one chop, then another, and then he did like 1 + 1 = 2, where he...
Yeah.
Yep, and so that one I'd say was probably the worst, and I thought it was a smart idea just because it kind of played off me and could do something for him to get back at me.
I know, I haven't gotten a chance to have any kind of program one-on-one feud at all with Void, which is really weird. But him and I have worked a few times, and one thing I love about Void is his finishing move. Now, in your opinion, what is the best finishing move in XCW?
It's definitely not mine, because I don't even think people know what it is. But I'd have to go with the Death by Vex. I feel he delivers it with so much momentum and force that it's super believable. It can come out of nowhere, and I think there's just multiple ways he can set up for it, and there's multiple moves he could bounce off of to do it.
Now, in pro wrestling, I think the character that would relate to your character the most would be like maybe a Christopher Nowinski, or an educated style wrestler of like a William Regal or something like that. But growing up, who was your biggest pro wrestling influence that made you want to wrestle?
Well, it was in WWE when I was watching, so probably Zack Ryder. And I mean, who's now Matt Cardona. And
I was sweating. I thought you were going to say Zach Gowen. I'm like, damn, you have both legs.
But yeah, I mean, you can even tell in the name Alex Cardona Thompson, Matt
Right.
Cardona. And I mean, I did use the Cardona name in wrestling before he did, so.
That is true.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd definitely say it was probably Zack Ryder.
Well, Matt Cardona is known as the Deathmatch King. And he's been in quite a few concept matches since leaving WWE. In your opinion, what's your favorite concept match? And there's a lot. 3 Stages of Hell, First Blood, Hell in a Cell. I mean, it's endless.
I'm going to have to go with agreement with Chris Jones and go with Ultimate X. Because like one of my other favorite wrestlers is Ace Austin. Obviously, he's one of the best X Division wrestlers in the world. I think that match is just something there's so many unique things that can happen, so many mixes of styles. Like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels all in one in TNA, whereas Styles is your high flyer, Daniels kind of is a mix of both, and Joe's the powerhouse. So I feel like there's just a lot of mix of styles you can put in that match, and just so many different spots you can come up with that make people's eyes wide, and they're like, wow, they really just came up with that and performed it.
Yeah, I agree, especially in the early days of the X Division, some of the stuff that they did. I mean, it's not an Ultimate X match, but I remember 6 Sides of Steel and Elix Skipper walking across that top of that cage, and just that was the innovation of wrestling. It might have even ruined wrestling. Hell, who knows? But with that being said, we talked a little earlier about you taking the fluorescent light bulb shots from Brendan Stickle and stuff, and you've wrestled on in football fields and on campuses, and college campuses, and all kinds of different places. But what's the hardest weapon shot you've received?
Probably in the field of fatality. There was like a rope which was hanging behind the bleachers. I had no clue what it was there for, no clue what's going on at Southport football games.
Yeah.
It's just kind of hanging
There's
back
a
there.
noose, literally.
Basically. And Boyd just kind of whipped it right over my back. And
that's actually in the new social commercial.
Yep, and he also choked me with it. And I'm literally choking. Like, you can hear me. It sounds like I'm about to puke.
Yeah, I produced that match. That was one of my favorite spots. So, we're getting ready to kick off the 2022 season, the 20th season in XCW. Where do you see ACT's career in 6 months from now?
So that'd be around midsummer.
Yeah, or probably around, look, right before SummerMania.
I'd say for sure probably the tag team champions. I think me and my brother are just kind of on the verge of kind of dethroning Violent Ending. Maybe I've cashed in by that point. Maybe not. I think it just kind of depends of the timing. I think it's something like, with my characters, there's so many innovative ways you can do it where you can make it look like I outsmarted someone and tricked them into it benefiting me. Or like we've done Twin Magic with me and Pacey before. There's just so many ways you could interpret that and do a cash in.
Right, absolutely. Now, with that being said, you've only been here a couple of years. You've already been an XCW New Age champion. You've been an international champion. Now you're in the running for a tag team championship run. But who do you think is the fastest rising star in XCW?
I'd have to go with Hayden Vex. I mean, in his first year, he was supposed to be an
Extreme
SC4.
King,
Yeah.
Money in the Bank, XCW championship all within a year. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I'd go with him. I mean, he was in the running for Superstar of the Year last year. Honestly, could have won it. So I'd say, yeah, he definitely just came in and immediately made an impact like that.
You know, Hayden calls himself the Alpha, and he's definitely proven that. You know, we got Psychor, who's the Beast. I call myself the Alpha King. I might have to be the Omicron King now. So, with all those things, you know, C-Unit, we have all these different names. Who do you think has the coolest name in XCW? What's your favorite name of a wrestler here in XCW?
It's probably going to be weird, but I have to go with the All-American Brady Branson, I think, because he basically plays that nickname absolutely perfectly.
Even outside of the ring, he's just
like
he's,
if we go somewhere and it says American in the menu, just know he has to order it.
Yeah, we go Denny's and he has to get the All-American burger. I mean, that's it's just a thing. I don't know. He's crazy. I know you don't know the whole list, but we can even do it by newer superstars if you'd like. Who that's not in the Hall of Fame do you think should be?
Since, like you said, I don't really know the list, so...
I mean, recently we just put in Jesse Justice.
Yeah, Void,
Matt Chinchell.
I'll just go with someone who's not in now, but I think will be in. And I'll shock some people. I think Evan Phoenix eventually gets in. I mean...
Hey, Evan won ST4.
Yeah, I mean, he's beat Chris Jones.
Absolutely.
So, I think he's someone who's kind of really become a mainstay here. He gets here early to set up, stays, tears down. So I think he's someone who...
I think Evan doesn't get enough credit. I really think that people discredit Evan. Mm-hmm. I know that Evan's not always in, a main event situation with his character.
Even when he's not, the stuff he does is enjoyable.
But the fact that, come on, he got Jaden Tucker over.
Yep.
I mean, he made his character look dumb in the process, but, he helped write that story. And, I mean, kudos to someone like Evan who can dedicate their character to something, especially that long in a season, and get it over as well as he did. So, yeah, big kudos to Evan. Now, you've come out to 2 different theme songs within your career, so this is, I guess, kind of between the two, but we can add something to it. But out of the 2 themes, which one did you prefer? Which one got you the most hyped?
I'd probably go with the second one. I think it's called Victorious.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's something you said where the lines, it kind of matches up perfectly with me being the cocky, arrogant heel.
Who's your favorite? We'll add to this. What's your favorite theme song that would get you pumped up if you came out to it out of the group?
Probably Brogan's. I think it just has a good little vibe to it.
It definitely fits him.
Yeah.
Especially that goofy ass walk he's got when he comes out. Would you rather? I know that you really haven't got a chance to play babyface in XCW so far, but let's say you have or you will at some point. What do you prefer, face or heel?
I'd say heel. I just won most hate. I feel like there's a lot of people, not just XCW in general, that just generally hate me.
Yeah, that was you, Shelby. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, she's probably one of them. There's a few others. But yeah, I'd definitely say heel. I don't really know how the babyface would work for my character. I mean, I don't know, maybe I just randomly show up and start teaching some kids math, help them out.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right, that might happen in the future. Who knows? Now, James Cerebral loves calling that right there in front of us the eye that never blinks. Were you ever camera shy? In my opinion, knowing you and hearing the promos you've cut and stuff, there's no way in hell you were camera shy. But were you?
No, not at all. I mean, all throughout high school, I was a sports reporter, so I was always on the camera, always in front of the screen, in front of thousands of people reporting. And then, like you said, the promos I've cut, you've seen, I'm really not against doing anything. I mean, even the first promo I ever cut, it kind of caught eyes, and it was like, okay, this is someone who, his bumping may not be great, but he has the promo ability to get over a character.
Now, you talked about a little bit of your experience before XCW, doing some broadcasting and some other things. Did you have any wrestling experience prior to XCW?
I was on my middle school wrestling team for a week.
Yeah? Want to tell us about that week?
It was miserable. Friday hit, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I remember there was once, it was this kid named Joey Conti. He had like 20 pounds of muscle on me. Picked me up, just slammed me right on the mat, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going. I'm not doing this anymore.
Don't have that amateur background that like a Miano Diaz has.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you came into XCW in 2020, you're talking about you were training while you were used as an extra, and you didn't debut until later in the season. Who were you trained by when you first came into XCW? Who do you credit for your training?
When I came in, I believe the trainers were Brennan Stickle, Corey Lee. Brogan wasn't a trainer at the time.
I believe Hazard was.
Yeah, Hazard was. Genocide was. Brogan wasn't a trainer at the time, but he was someone who kind of helped me along the way, because just like him in a sense, I was awful at bumping. When it came to in-ring stuff, I wasn't that good, but promo ability, I had. And like similar to Brogan, he was just telling me when he came in, he was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, he was.
But then we flash forward to now, and Brogan's probably one of the most valuable assets to the company.
Absolutely.
So I'd say I'd probably credit Brogan and Brennan the most.
Yeah, I can see that, especially with Brendan being your first major storyline coming out of your debut at Extreme King. Speaking of Extreme King and Brendan Stickle, Brendan Stickle made a return to Extreme King this past year, and he's in there with his good friend Corey Lee, and they're known as Starstruck Entertainment. You've seen the lights of Vengeance and the Royalty and plenty of tag teams in your short time here. Who stands out as your favorite tag teams or stables since you've been here in XCW?
I'd probably have to go with Vengeance, just because the way they came in was so dominant, where they took out literally everyone, even the announcers. They stripped down the ring, slammed people on the bare wood. So I'd go with them just because, in the simple term of their debut was so dominant, it was just already set up okay, this is the faction to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Vengeance had a little bit shorter of a run than I would have liked, but things fell in place perfectly with DJ's return and Chris Jones coming out of retirement to do a couple matches and stuff like that. I just feel like in a way the timing was right, but I wish that there was a little more out of that. But Venom's health also played a big hand in that not progressing anymore. Now, This might be a tough question. It's more of a personal question. Is there anyone within the XCW family that you just personally do not like?
JJ Kelty, 100% hate him. I think just because, like, there's times where he'll go out of his way to literally tell my brother, like, hey, you and your brother aren't as good, you shouldn't be getting overpushed. JJ Kelty brought Eric Coldwin to the show.
Sure.
I mean, let's be honest. We're comparing new talent here, and FWL's champion's a 60-year-old grandpa who has to take Viagra before each match. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with JJ Kelty just because I think he's...
are you a friend of Frankenstein?
If he's their world champion...
I think so, yeah.
I mean, who knows at this point, but yeah.
All right.
JJ Kelty, 100%.
All right, well, the guy he's currently in a storyline with, there's a little bit of heat there. Speaking of storylines, you've seen plenty of storylines. You've seen storylines between Brogan and Hayden, myself and Chris Jones, myself and as Vengeance with Starstruck. There's so many stories that are told here in XCW, but in your opinion, what was your favorite storyline that you've seen unfold in XCW?
I'd probably have to go with you and Chris just because it goes back over a period of time. Like, you guys are close outside of XCW. You've known each other for a long time. So I feel like you being able to bring the personal side while also incorporating a wrestling standpoint.
And we only wrestled once in that last feud.
And I mean, you had the hurt foot. I think you basically broke it. So like you guys being able to go out there and put on a good match and incorporate the personal life into the wrestling standpoint made it a great storyline.
I think that a lot of people kind of discredit a little bit of the fact that myself and Chris Jones and myself and Tommy, those are the two that stand out to me the most. Not trying to put myself on a pedestal, but in those two unique situations, those two unique storylines, there was only one match in the entire story. A whole story was told without even having a physical match. So, yeah, I mean, I can't discredit that opinion at all. I think that Chris and I have probably one of the best rivalries in XCW's 20-year history. But speaking of that, what was your favorite rivalry? Give me one that you've had, and then also one that you've seen unfold.
Okay, one that I'd have to say is mine with Brennan, just because when I came in, the whole comparison, my character was Brennan Stickle 2.0. Just his was more focused on the athletic jock side of things. Mine's more focused on the academic side of things. Yeah. So us being able to feud and kind of like go off of each other promo-wise because our characters were very similar, I'd say that's been my favorite feud so far. And then just one in general, I'll go with the Brogan and Hayden story. I think they brought something back from Hayden's past, and it was a big deal, Hayden being like cool to bring that into a story, and the story being so well, they won Promo of the Year, other awards as well. So I'd say Hayden and Brogan, just because they took a past demon of Hayden, and Hayden was perfectly fine to make it into a storyline.
This one, you're not really going to be able to have you're not going to have a clear-cut answer. You've really only competed in one. But you've seen plenty of old footage and stuff from XW. Is there a specific location that stood out to you that you thought was better than the others? Or are we here now?
I'd say, wasn't there behind Target once?
Behind Walgreens.
Okay, yep. I'd go with there just because it was such an open space.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't really any trees around to get in the way of anything, or
it was just
any hanging wires, anything like that. So I'd go with there just because you had so much open space, and, like, just for fans to be there, too.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of legacy do you think ACT is going to leave behind here in XW?
I'm probably going to go down as one of the most hated people here, because, I mean, you've seen,
some people might think of that as a bad thing, but it's really not. I mean, that means you're doing your damn job.
Yeah, as a heel, you're supposed to hate me, but I'd say I'll go down as one of, if not the most hated characters.
You're getting ready to kick off the start of your third season with XCW. Yep. This is XCW's 20th season. What, in your opinion, do you think, like, what kind of legacy is the company XCW going to leave behind, as opposed, like, compared to all the other backyard companies out there?
I'd say it's just a step above backyard companies in a sense of there's a ring, there's characters, there's an entrance. When there's a special show, we make a big deal out of it, and I feel like a lot of people discredit backyard wrestling because a lot of times it is just people on a trampoline, that type of thing. Whereas here, it's kind of like basically an independent company without being an independent company.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard some people call us like amateur pro, almost like a whole new category. Usually there's backyard and then there's pro wrestling. Well, I don't even know if I consider local independence as
is it
pro
wrestling or sports entertainment?
Yeah, I don't know, and like I do feel like we kind of straddle the line of wrestling and sports entertainment because we do a lot of storytelling here. So it's just a matter of somebody's opinion, I think. How has XCW impacted your personal life?
I'd probably have to say friendships. I mean, there's a lot of people I've became close with. I mean, me and you, we went to WrestleMania last year. We're going again this year. Me and Brogan went to an AEW show in Chicago earlier this year. If there's ever a wrestling...
We need to get our pennies together and go to the Royal Rumble in a couple weeks.
Brady's supposed to help us out with that.
I know.
But yeah, I'd definitely say it was friendships. And like at the time I started, I wasn't really watching wrestling. But then I kind of got back into it. So I'd say friendships, and it just kind of got me back into watching wrestling.
What's the best thing that's come out of XCW for you, though? What's anything in particular, other than maybe the friends that's come out of this, that was kind of a life changer?
I'd say it's given me something to be passionate about, because when I was in high school, like I said, I did the broadcasting. I was kind of set on, this is something I want to do in the future. And then it just kind of became like, this just isn't really fun for me anymore. Because when I went to continue it, I thought I was doing like the reporting. I covered, I think, in total 1 game. And other than that, I just was never being asked to do anything. So it took the fun out of it. And coming here is kind of like it gave me something to be passionate about.
Yeah, and it's weird because I have a couple of very strong passions. One is music, and I can't sing, and I sure as hell can't play an instrument, so I'm screwed there. Wrestling, obviously, and I feel like I've made, part of my dream come true, as well as, 50, 60, 100, however many people XCW's had over the years. I think I've helped make a lot of those guys have, live out their dream coming to XCW as well. And my other one was to be in broadcasting, and unfortunately my school career didn't go that great, and college just ended up not really being an option for me. So unfortunately I didn't even get the opportunity to do that, but being able to do projects like this, I feel like really helps me out. Now, earlier we alluded to the fact that you're the number 1 contender right now for the tag team titles. You're a former New Age champion and a former international champion. But of all the accolades, all the things that you've done in XCW, what's your proudest achievement today?
Probably winning Money in the Bank. I mean, I know the finish of it, I messed up completely. But I think, it was only my second season at the time, I was finishing up my second season, being trusted to hold the Money in the Bank while also being in the tag team picture is kind of like a big deal, because it gives me a boost of confidence in a sense of I'm holding this briefcase while possibly trying to become a tag team champion, which the tag team division here is probably the weakest link.
It absolutely is, yeah.
Which, I think I'm someone who possibly could save it, just because I think I have the promo ability to make people want to care about something.
Now you talk about that, and you talked about, tagging up with your brother whose character's name is SAT. Yours is ACT, obviously playing off of academics. Where did your name and character come from?
Well, It was like the first ever group training where it wasn't a show day. We just 100% were focused on training, and that's where you kind of told me of, hey, your character is going to be like you're this academic scholar, you're smarter than everyone, and then from there it was kind of like, okay, it would be good if we played off of that by using either ACT, SAT, one of those big tests that
I know. I
everyone recognizes.
kind of feel like we shit the bed. Your guys' team name should have been GPA, but
Yeah, there. I got a younger brother.
that's true.
Maybe he's just turning 14 soon.
I actually, back in 2002, Chris would remember this too. We actually wrestled with a character whose name was GPA, Gregory Preston Armstrong. Wrestled in BYWE with Justin Parsley. Last question. This one really gets people riled up. You've been in the ring. You've had the bumps and the bruises and the hurt ribs and the light tubes and all that stuff. What do you say to people these days who say wrestling is fake?
I mean, I kind of explained to them there's a difference between fake and scripted. I mean, and you see it now, in my opinion, with boxing. In my opinion, boxing is becoming more scripted than pro wrestling. I think with all the celebrities coming to boxing.
You got Jake Paul.
Yeah, Jake Paul, Nate Robinson's boxing, Floyd Mayweather coming out of retirement.
And Conor McGregor in and out, dabbling
yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
With him breaks his leg on one kick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just explained to him there's a difference between scripted and fake, because at the end of the day, there's going to be some people it's just not worth arguing.
Absolutely.
They have their opinion, we have ours. It's just not worth wasting your time on. So I just try my best to explain to them, like, scripted is where, okay, yeah, we know what's going to happen. At the end of the day, you're going into a match, you know who's winning, you know what your focus points are. At the end of the day, though, everything hurts. If you get hit with a kendo stick, it's not just going to be like, oh, well.
Yeah.
You're not going to Leo Rush it, powerbomb through 3 tables off the ladder, then kip up.
Yeah, kendo sticks are the fucking worst.
Not all of us are hook here. We're not taking tombstones and kipping and getting right back up. We all focus on our neck. But yeah, that's just what I'd say is like, okay, yeah, everything is scripted out. Everything's played out. But you're still bumping. You're still taking the moves. And I mean, when you watch wrestling, there's the same major injuries you'd see in other sports. Torn ACLs, broken necks, broken...
Everything but turf toe.
I mean, basically. Which, I don't know, we're getting into field of fatality now.
That's true. That is true.
You never know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been ACT. I am Fletch. Another edition here of Freetime Interview. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.